Deep Space Nine is different from every other Star Trek series in the way that it embraces spirituality amongst different species and cultures. The Bajoran prophets play a huge role in what happens on the planet, on the station, and in the life of the emissary Benjamin Sisko. But what about Bajor's highest spiritual office of the Kai? In this episode, we'll break down Kai Winn's most iconic moments and most disastrous decisions. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. And today we are going to talk about the rise and fall of Kai Winn. For those of you who are following along in real time, you will know that I recently finished watching Deep Space Nine for the very first time ever. So I just finished my rewatch. If you're interested in my thoughts about each season, go ahead and check that out on my channel. I've got seasons 1 through 7 and kind of my top episodes, my least favorite episodes. But of everything, there are a couple of characters that really stood out to me for different reasons. Nog is just like my life, right? Like I love this character so much. I think the actor who plays Garrick is just, and the actor who plays Quark, like they can do no wrong in my eyes as when it comes to acting. But one of the most interesting characters who I hated from the moment I saw her was Kai Winn. And at the time it was Vedic Winn. Such a well done character, such an amazing villain. And as Scott, who runs the channel Opinions No One Cares About on YouTube, as he is often saying, Kai Winn is, let me see the quote exactly, because Dustin put it into the chat. And it is like exactly, this describes all of it. Kai Winn is 20 pounds of self-interest in a 10-pound bag marked in service of Bajor. Perfectly said. I couldn't say it better. So I thought, what better than to have an entire conversation about the journey of this character, of this person in the world of Deep Space Nine. So without further ado, let's get started with our first touch point of actually meeting this character and seeing what she was all about. Season 1, Episode 20, In the Hands of the Prophets. Tensions rise when a Bajoran religious leader, Vedic Winn, opposes Keiko O'Brien's secular curriculum in the station's school. Vedic Winn discourages all Bajoran families from sending their students to the school until Keiko gets in line with what she wants. Later on, the school is bombed, and during a rally to denounce this violence, Vedic Winn also plans to have her rival, Vedic Bareil, assassinated. Thankfully, her plans are thwarted at the last second, and all is well. So this was one of my favorite episodes in all of season 1, because I really did not know what was going to happen. So in the beginning, Vedic Winn shows up, and at first she seems kind of nice, like for the first, 35 seconds. She seems pretty nice. She comes in and she's like, oh, hey, Keiko, just checking out everything. Just wanted to see what your classroom was like. And the second Keiko said something about, I don't even know if she said anything about the prophets. It may have been Vedic Winn herself who brought it up. Like, what about the prophets? What do you think about it? Maybe she was starting some trouble. I don't even remember. But when that topic came up, Keiko was like, oh, they're the wormhole aliens, blah, blah, blah. And Vedic Winn was like, wormhole aliens? You mean you also don't worship the prophets? Well, you are not fit to run our schools. So already I was like, okay, she's coming in hot, but I get it. She's the religious, she's one of the spiritual leaders. And when this whole conversation was brought up to the bridge crew, Kira was like, I totally agree with Vedic Winn. Our beliefs as Bajorans are not being represented in a school that is teaching almost exclusively Bajoran children. So Kira was on team Winn at that time. And actually that's kind of fair for a culture that is so ultra religious. It'd be kind of like the equivalent of having a Catholic school or something. For a culture that's so super religious, it makes sense to have their religious aspects represented in their classroom because that is who they are. It's such a big part of their everyday life. However, or in addition, Keiko is not Bajoran. So how much of their beliefs can she really reflect, right? Like that's not her culture. That's not her upbringing. So how much can she really share? I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of a middle ground where they could have religious schools like Sunday school, which churches do have, which Protestant churches do have. They could have something like that, right? But that was not what Vedic Winn was about. She was not about compromise or anything. It was like my way or the highway. In addition, Vedic Winn, I feel like, couldn't care less about these children and their spiritual growth. She was just looking for an opportunity to start some drama. Like, that's what she was here for. And we find out at the end of the episode when she tries to have Vedic Bareil assassinated, that this whole thing was a plot and a ploy to get him onto the station so that he can be assassinated. So really, not only did she have no concern for these kids whatsoever, she had this darker, deeper plot brewing the whole time. So she starts by starting drama with Keiko. And then her next step is to start drama with all the parents. Well, I talked to Miss Keiko, and she said she didn't care at all about Bajoran beliefs, and she's a terrible influence. And if you still let your kids go to that school, they're all going to go to hell, basically, right? So now she's keeping all the kids away from school, which was good since she planned to blow it up. But she started drama with Keiko, then she started drama with the parents, made sure all the kids were removed because they didn't follow her way. And still at this time, Kira's like, I mean, yeah, like I like her, she's a little intense, but yeah, I like her. Then the school explodes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so shocked. I did not see that coming at all. And I felt so bad for poor Keiko. She finally found something to do with herself that she liked and was presumably good at, but that's neither here nor there. So then we find out that the person who's sabotaging everything it works on Deep Space Nine, works under O'Brien, but is like an acolyte of Vedic Winn. So she has just kind of warped this girl's mind into thinking all of these terrible acts, like blowing up a freaking school, is somehow for the greater good. Like she's really just walked circles around this girl. So not only does she believe that, but she's also so brainwashed that she's not going to tell on Vedic Winn. She's just like, oh, the prophet sent me. They told me directly, all this other stuff. So when she's caught, Vedic Winn is still insulated from getting any kind of like blowback from that, which is wild to me. But Kira's no fool. She figures it out. And she's like, this was you. You were behind it the whole time. I can tell by that little sneer on your face. And of course, Vedic Winn is like, how dare you? Never. That's not me at all, and acts so offended. And Vedic Morale is just like, what just happened? Because he was just here to to condemn these horrible acts of blowing up a school and all of that. So in the end, Vedic Winn did not get her way in this case because Bareil was not murdered. Thankfully, that attempt was foiled. But she also didn't not get her way, right? Because she made a big splash. She came across as this person who's really into her conservative values. She was insulated from any blowback from this situation. It was just a crazy person doing a crazy thing that had nothing to do with her. And so it didn't fully work, but it also didn't hurt her in the least. So this was the episode where I was like, oh my gosh, I hate her. Like I hate everything about Vedic Winn. What an exceptional character. I can tell you full on shows where I have seen an entire season or multiple seasons with characters I feel nothing towards, like complete apathy. Take them or leave them. Couldn't care less. They generated so much deep emotion in me against this character in one episode. And let me just say to the writers and directors and showrunners of D6-9, thank you for bringing this character back again and again, because man, did I love to hate her. She is such a good villain. And earlier in the chat, somebody put that Winn is better than the Borg. And I was thinking about that as far as villains go. I mean, it's apples and oranges, so it's not really a fair comparison. But I never hated the Borg. The Borg were just really scary because they keep coming and they never stop. But Winn, I always hated Winn. She's also she keeps coming and never stops. But I hated her from the first minute. I had very strong emotions, very well-written character. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. I'm going to check the chat, and then we will go to kind of the next point on her journey for her ascension and ultimate collapse of her power. Okay, hello to everybody who's here live. Hello to everyone who's watching on the replay. By the way, if you're watching on the replay, there are timestamps below, so you can jump ahead at any time. Okay, that was Gavin, who said that Kai Winn is better than the Borg. Both pretty good villains, but yes, I was very more afraid of the Borg because they're kind of like zombies than afraid of Winn. I just hated Winn. All she does is win, no matter what. Perfect. Yes. Okay. Robert says, when she says my child, just makes my blood boil. And what about that smile? This actress kills it. Every time she smiles, she's up to something shady. Every time she smiles, you're like, okay. And you know what? In the beginning, I would have said, it seems like she's going to stab you in the back, until she literally stabs her second in command in the back. And then you're like, okay, all bets are off. I really don't know what this lady is going to do next. Love to hate Kai Winn. Yes. Oh, also, PS2 Chipper has gifted 10 memberships to the channel. So if you are not yet a channel member, be sure to jump in on that now. You can just jump into the chat and grab one of those before they're gone. I think there's a little timer or something, and you might have to enable it. But if you are not yet a member, definitely jump in on that. Keep going. Okay, I'm just yes. So Patty says she has an agenda. She absolutely has an agenda. She always has an agenda. She's like this ultimate chess player or something. But she plays to win. That's for darn sure. Keiko involved in an evil plot. Coincidence? I find it interesting that Winn was introduced as a leader of more of a conservative or obscure sect of their religion. Do you mean you find it interesting that it was obscure when she ended up being so powerful, or just in general? Best Keiko episode by a mile. I actually love the one with evil Keiko, but I guess this is a good one with like not evil Keiko, with Keiko in her right mind. Winn looks extra devious in that purple black robe. And the sci-fi looking hat. I love that hat. It's so cool. She does a good job of clutching her pearls to feign innocence. She absolutely does. At one point, I almost made a list of ways Kai Winn should meet her demise. Okay, so let me ask you, DJ Magix, how do you feel about the way Kai Winn actually met her demise? Was that satisfying for you, or do you feel like she could have had a more grand exit? There should be a picture of Winn in the dictionary next to passive aggressive, because wow, yes, passive aggressive, and also kind of I don't know. She's sneaky. She's conniving. That's it, and also conniving. Resistance is futile, my child. I.e., taking the long way of traversing to the Gamma Quadrant, like a low-key falling for 30 minutes. She would fall through the wormhole for years. Oh my goodness. Yes, Louise Fletcher's so good. Winn is so condescending. That means talks down to people. Totally. Oh wow. Just like that, the memberships were all gone. Yay! Welcome. If you are a member, drop a Borg colon in the chats. Sela says the DS9 companion states that the Bajoran religion was partly based on the writer Rob Wolf's Catholic upbringing. It was supposed to be like 15th century Catholicism. I actually really like the Bajoran religion, and I loved that the Bajoran gods were real. So they didn't. So they weren't belittled for having any kind of faith, because literally, they're right there. Like Cisco has seen them, and then with the power rates, it's like they're right there. One's inside of Keiko, one's inside of Jake, one's inside of Ducat. They're right there. I really appreciate that, and then I love how they branched out the religion. They didn't just stay with Bajorans, but we got to see the religious beliefs of the Ferengi, and just like I loved how they explored a few more things. Oh, okay, you're saying specifically religious figures who are also political figures. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, super devious. It's interesting that their religion does not have a vow of chastity. I thought the same thing when Vedic Bareil hooked up with Kira, because I was totally thinking Catholicism. That was the connection I made in my mind. And so when Kira and Bareil hooked up, I was like, can they do this? Like, is this appropriate, or is this like really scandalous? But everybody else was just like, oh yeah, they're a couple. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, okay then. They can this is great that they don't have a vow of chastity. So they can actually mix with the world, and we can see what happens. Yes, we have some Borg emojis. We've got some colon emojis. We got some baseball emojis. Love it. Okay, so this is the next point in Vedic Winn's journey that I thought was really interesting. Season 2, Episode 3, The Siege. The Bajoran government launches an assault against Deep Space Nine, but Cisco and a small crew stay behind to defend the station. Kira exposes Jaro as the real leader of the terrorist organization called the Circle, and shows that they've been armed by the Cardassians. I actually love that episode. I love that episode. That's like the three-part season opener, where I was like, who does this? And I couldn't stop watching because I had to have closure, and I could not imagine watching this in real time, because it would have killed me to have to wait another week and then wait another week. I would have been like, what are you doing? But anyways, I love that episode all around. But here's the interesting thing about Vedic Winn in this case. So the prime minister, either the acting prime minister, the current prime minister, the one who's trying to be prime minister, what did I say his name was? Jaral or something like that. He was behind the Circle. He was behind the terrorism. And he was the one who was trying to create these really crazy, not really crazy, but these really wide-reaching reforms because the Bajoran government was under so much flux after the Cardassians left. And so that's why I'm like, I'm not sure if he was the prime minister or interim or what the deal was. But anyways, he was making a grab for power. And in not this episode, but the episode right before it, we see Vedic Winn and that guy whose name I'm blanking on. We see them both kind of like nuzzling each other and kind of hooking up, maybe in her quarters or in somebody's room in somebody's house. And they're talking to each other, and basically they're trying to make this little pact where they're like, wouldn't it be amazing if you were the prime minister and I was the Kai, and we would be the greatest power couple in all of Bajor? And the whole scene just made my skin crawl. In fact, this was the first part when I had that question about the vow of chastity, when they were being all like cuddly. I was like, can they hook up? Is this like intrigue on top of just some outrageous scandal? But no, that was totally fine. And then I thought, wow, this really shows what kind of a person she is. If we're just talking about Vedic Winn, because that other guy, I don't think we ever saw him after this. Like after his storylines wrapped up, we don't ever see that dude again. So it's like she's like, oh, if you become not prime minister, what do they call it? First minister. If you become first minister, then you can make sure that I become the Kai, or if I become the Kai, I can make sure that you become first minister. So it's already kind of like, I wash your back, you wash mine, which is how politics work. And this is how a lot of things work. But it just set so wrong with me for her being a spiritual leader, because part of spirituality usually is some kind of moral compass. And she just didn't seem like she cared about who was best for the job. It seemed like she cared about who was most likely to give her what she wanted. And therefore that person should get the job, And also, not only was there something like icky about the two of them hooking up and making these secret power plays, but I still don't trust either one of them either. Like, I could totally see them both getting into power, making sure, one making sure the other gets into power, and now kind of trying to manipulate the other one to get more power and to get what they want. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't see any kind of clean, even partnership going on here. There's going to be some kind of weird strings being pulled and weird manipulation going on if this relationship went forward, which it actually doesn't. So, phew. But that's kind of the next step on her journey, is me being like, oh, wow, she really wants power and she's really willing to do whoever to get it. And she's going to be with someone who agrees with those values, right? Who's also kind of like, I don't know, you give me a little something, I might put you in power. Like, that's what we're about here. We're not about who's best for the job. So again, it wasn't as much hatred as with her blowing up school and trying to assassinate Bareil, but it did make me look at her sideways this episode. I feel like that was another glimpse into her character. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat, and then we're going to go to the next bump on her journey. Yeah, that's true. The Klingon said, even the Klingon said, we killed our gods. They were more trouble than they were worth. Yes, we did get some backstory on some Klingon religions. We got a little bit more with Sto-vo-kor and Jadzia. But I think we got the most probably in Voyager with that. Kai Winn nuzzling. Ugh. If you want to be my lover, gotta get with my Winn. You guys are killing it with the song lyrics right now. Yes, quid pro quo, Clarice. Exactly. It's quid pro quo and super creepy and kind of deathy. Politics. Seeing how political deals are made is messier than an unlicensed sausage factory, which now makes me not want to have sausage either. Okay, let's check out the next road bump on her journey. Season 2, Episode 24, The Collaborator. Vedic Bareil and Vedic Winn are the two strongest candidates to replace Kai Opaka. When evidence arises that Bareil might have been involved in a massacre, both Winn and Kira rush to investigate. Kira discovers that Opaka was the one behind the atrocity, but Bareil steps down rather than tarnish her memory. In the end, Winn becomes the new Kai, and Bareil becomes her trusted advisor. So this episode was kind of okay. Like, it wasn't the best episode ever, but I did like these parts of it. I did like the world building and kind of the intrigue here. So it starts out with some criminal who was arrested for something. I don't even remember because that wasn't the point. But before they could extradite him, punish him, something, Vedic Winn steps in and is like, oh, no, I'm going to, it's not absolve him. What is it? I'm going to, what's the word? I'm going to forgive his crimes because he's going to like help out the government in some kind of some kind of I was going to say witch hunt. I'm trying to say words that are not like clearly coloring my opinions, but basically she was like, okay, he's no longer going to be a criminal because he's going to help me out with this investigation. And so Kira's like, that's super suspicious. And by the way, after the whole bombing the school and trying to kill Bareil, Kira was no longer on Team Winn. So everything she does is super suspicious to Kira. So Kira's like, why would she do this? Like, why would she really save this guy? So she digs into it and is like, oh, wow, it's because he says that he has some secret information about how Bareil had participated in this atrocity, how he had given the Cardassians the location of some group of Bajorans. Maybe some of them were terrorists or something. And so if he gives that information, or even if he doesn't, Winn can use that as blackmail to make sure that Vedek Bareil does not become the Kai. So these are like the only two contenders. And this couldn't have come at a better time, because I think the election is happening when this story is taking place. The election is happening like that same week, like 3 days later or 5 days later, something like that. Like there's a really short time frame before the election happens. If it's an election, the vote, however they pick the Kais. So Kira is upset, understandably, but because she does have a moral compass, and also she's really touchy about collaborators and that sort of thing, she's like, I'm going to investigate that. Yes, a pardon. That was it. That wasn't the word I was thinking, but that's what she did. A pardon. Yes. So Kira's like, I will do this investigation. I will follow it wherever it leads, because I have to know the truth. Like, I have to know if Bareil did this or not. It's really important to me. I cannot move forward. Whereas Kai Winn doesn't super care whether or not Bareil did it. She just wants to know if there's enough evidence where she could either blackmail Bareil into stepping down or smear him if he wins or if he's about to win. So that's really all she cares about. Is there enough meat on the bone for me to get my way? But for Kira, it is an ethical dilemma. So digging down to the bottom of it, like I said in the little video clip, Kira finds out that it was Opaka and is like, aha, I know the truth. But Bareil is just like keeping his mouth shut. He's not saying anything. So by default, he steps out of the race. So by default, when Vedek Winn becomes Kai Winn, and she walks out with the smuggest little look on her face, and you just want to like punch her. She comes out just looking like, she's just gotten all of her dreams and wishes, and she comes out with her two priest guys behind her who are now going to follow her around. She's got a new cool little outfit. And when she sees Kira, she does a little ear thing, and she's like, oh, your paw, my child, and blah, blah, blah. And I could just see Kira like, what the heck? Because now she's conflicted, because she has to honor her as the Kai, but also she does not like her. She doesn't like her. She doesn't trust her. So now what is she going to do? She can't be disrespectful to her, but also can she really follow her as a spiritual leader? Can she follow her as any kind of leader? So whatever. And also, like, her man got done dirty, so she's feeling all kinds of ways. So Kai Winn does a little ear thing and then walks away all self-satisfied. And then when Bareil comes out, Kira's like, I figured it out. It wasn't you. It was Opaka. Why didn't you just say something? And he was just like, nope, she's gone down in history as an amazing woman, and she is an amazing woman, and I will not tarnish her for anything. So again, it's like Bareil has such a solid moral compass. I don't know how he would have been as Kai. I think he would have been good. I think he would have been like Opaka, but maybe less like vague, because Opaka was kind of mystical and kind of like not very clear. She was a lot like the prophets. She was not super clear. I think he would have been more clear, but I honestly don't know if he would have been better as the Kai or better as the advisor to the Kai, because he just was really good in that role, which actually is interesting, because the whole reason that Vedek Winn, when she tried to assassinate him, that the whole reason why she did such a big to-do to get him out was because he was staying in his little cloister. He was really hard to get at. He was like in the middle of nowhere. He never came out. He never left. So she had to find a way to get him out into the open. So I wonder where he learned these skills of being good at politics, if he was kind of hiding in a mountain. But I guess it's backstory, right? Whatever was going on as he was going through his Vedek life, or maybe things he did before he became a Vedek. I don't know. But at this point, it's now Kai Winn. And I was so mad. I was so mad when she came out as Kai. Like, I was so mad, because I feel like she has done everything wrong. So why should she win? Why should she win? But this is the point that we're at now. And now it was like, okay, what is she going to do with this power? And of course, I still don't really know the answer to that. Mostly just floss with it and try to prove that she's really powerful. I don't know how much she did for Bajor, but we could talk about that. Okay. I'm going to check the chat and then we'll go to the next stop on her journey. This is a good one. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Winn is back with some brand new ambition. I love it. We could do like keep them coming. Keep them coming. So they weren't a very smooth criminal. I don't know. The outfit was kind of smooth. I liked it. The only good thing about Winn becoming Kai is that she got rid of that awful Sydney Opera House hat. I love that hat. That hat reminded me of, do you remember the episode of TNG where Captain Picard gets kidnapped? It's called Allegiance. He gets kidnapped with a bunch of there's like a Nausicaan and a Bolian and something else. The something else had that opera hat thing. And it was like even more opera hatty than that. It was like, it had a whole bunch. And we only see that guy one time and it was the coolest hat. I loved it. And the second time we see that guy is in Lower Decks. And I like squealed into like when I got to see the opera hat again. But it's so funny. It wasn't until doing these videos that I remembered that Vedic Winn had a different outfit. Because she's the Kai for so long. That's who she is in my mind now. It really bothers me that in 7 seasons, they never revisited the planet with resurrected Okaka. Okay, I was thinking that too with resurrected Opaka again. Like, Winn never goes to get any advice or anything from Opaka. Okay, so I have the same exact question, Dustin. Because Opaka went on some away mission with Cisco and Bashir and Kira. And the shuttle crashed on this planet and Opaka died. It was super sad. And Kira, oh my gosh, she like lost her freaking mind. And it like brought up tears to me because of how well Nana Visitor, the actress who plays Kira, was just like broken. I was like, oh gosh. But halfway through the episode, Opaka pops back up and she's alive again. And you're like, what the F? So it turns out this planet has some kind of nanites that keeps you from dying, but only if you stay on the planet. If you leave the planet, you immediately die. But if you stay on the planet, no matter how many times you're killed, the nanites just rebuild your body and reanimate you. So turns out that planet, or maybe it was a moon, was a prison. And there was like 2 factions on this planet, moon, whatever. And so the 2 factions just kept killing each other. Like for hundreds of years, they just kept killing each other. They would come back to life, kill each other, come back to life. And so when Opaka was resurrected, she was like, I had a vision, like an orb experience. And the prophets told me that I needed to come on this mission, but I didn't know why. And I knew it was something about this planet or whatever. And so when she gets resurrected, she's like, now I get it. My job is to be here to cause peace, to create peace between these 2 different factions. Like, that's my mission. So she's still alive. She's totally alive out on that colony, that moon, that planet, whatever that is. She's still over there on the prison planet. And you could go there at any time. You could see her and be like, hey, Opaka, what's going on? As long as you don't get killed, you can leave. You can go and talk to her. You can leave. Also, presumably, I was going to say technology. You can't use technology because it's a prison. So there were some things of like, you can't, I don't think you can beam. I think you can only take a shuttle. And I don't think you can use comms. So yes, Kai Winn would have had to physically like go down to the prison planet where everyone's brutally killing each other to have a chat. But maybe someone else could have gone. Like, the point is she's still alive and well. And it's like, once she left, people were just like, how sad, Opaka's gone. But like, she's still over there. Anyways, I did think that too. When I was watching, I wondered if they were going to go back, and they just never did. Which I don't know what their storyline would have been, but I feel like they could have, I don't know. I don't know if maybe they didn't need to, it wouldn't make sense, but I was so curious to see if they ever went back. Okay. She has done everything wrong. So why should she win? You're speaking my feelings about real life. Yes. It's like, it goes so against what we're taught as children, right? Do you remember the hat from the Flying Nun? Yeah, it is a lot like that hat. I love the nun hat. The DS9 writers were too busy writing crap like Move Along Home instead of trying to bring Opaka back into the story. In the books, like, the first thing they do after DS9 is go bring Opaka back. Do they? How does she not die though? How does she not die when they take her off the planet? They said Opaka died. The rest of the galaxy believes Opaka. Did they say she died? They didn't just say she was on that planet? Did they tell everybody? Because I don't totally remember how they ended that episode. You would think that planet would be targeted by Section 31 or the Dominion. But why would it be targeted? They're not doing anything. I think that planet would be a good spot to like drop off your worst enemy, like drop Ducat on that planet or something. Okay. Anyways, let's go to the next stop on now Kai Winn's journey. We've seen her as the Vedic, the murderous Vedic. We've seen her as the saucy Vedic who's playing power games behind the scenes. We've seen her conniving, win her the crown, win her the throne of becoming the Kai. Now here's the next stop on her journey. Season 3, Episode 13, Life Support. Vedic Bareil is critically injured in a shuttle accident. While in the middle of peace negotiations between Bajor and Cardassia, Bashir uses experimental treatments to keep him alive so he can continue advising Kai Winn. But the procedure progressively strips away his body and mind. Eventually, Bareil dies, leaving Winn to finalize the treaty on her own, which she takes all the credit for. I was so angry with Winn during this entire episode. I mean, okay, at the beginning, when they come to the station and everybody's, there's like steam coming out of the airlock and they all look all dirty and must and stuff. And Kai Winn's like, we've been attacked. Okay, I wasn't mad at her at that point. I was like, oh no, they've been attacked. And then when she was like, Vedic Bareil, he's hurt. I was like, oh no, someone get Kira. So at that moment, I didn't feel any kind of way. As we go on, we find out that Vedic Winn is in secret talks with the Cardassians about like reparations or something like that. But it's all a big secret. And she thinks that they were, I think they wrote it as a shuttle accident, but she thinks they were attacked so that way these agreements can go forward. Anyways, the real person who was negotiating everything was Bareil. So Kai Winn was really just there as like a rubber stamp. She was there to kind of be a fly on the wall. And then once everything was all smoothed out, she was going to sign the final papers or whatever. So when Bareil gets injured, now Vedic Winn has to do her job on her own. And she is, surprise, surprise, inept. She cannot do it, which makes sense because she didn't even want to do stuff like this. And again, it's like, you wanted the power, but do you even want this job? Like, is this even the job for you? Honestly, if we're talking about Section 31, put Kai Winn in Section 31. She is sneaky as heck. She could probably get all the secrets. But whatever, this is what she wanted to do. So she needs Vedic Bareil to do her job, basically, because she does not know what they've talked about, what the negotiations were, where they are with things. So while he's on his sick bed, he's literally being like, oh no, we already negotiated that. Tell him this, tell him that. And whatever magic that Bashir did to bring him back to life, it's very tentative. It's very tenuous. And if he keeps putting stress on his brain, it's going to drain whatever magical powers Bashir has endowed upon him very quickly, and he will be dead for realsies this time. So Bashir tells Bareil, I need to put you in a medically induced coma until I figure out how to save your life for real. Because whatever I did was kind of temporary. But if we can just put you in some kind of stasis, I could probably figure it out eventually, and then we could bring you back after I fix your brain. And Bareil is like, no, these negotiations are too important. I have to finish them. Just like, shoot me up with something else. Give me another hypo spray. Put me in, coach. Like, I got to keep going. And Kira's like, no, dude, like you could die. No, don't do that. And Bashir's also like, no, dude, you could die. And Kai Winn is like, yes, this is so important for Bajor. I mean, it's Bajor, right? And I don't want to say she's guilt tripping Bareil because he's very, very much of his own volition choosing to do this. This is his choice, but she's just not shedding a tear. We'll put it that way. Then there's a scene where he's like, most of him has now been rebuilt by these things that Bashir keeps doing to try to like sustain him longer. So at this point, he's kind of a robot. He still has his memories, but he doesn't have his emotions. And it's just like the faintest little thread of who Bareil was is still left animating this body, or at least animating the mouth. We don't see the rest of him moving. And and so Kira and Winn are standing over his bed, and Kira's all holding his hand like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And he's like, feelings, doings. I don't know what these words mean. But Kai Winn, on the other hand, has her data pad, and she's like, okay, so about treaty part 1.67, what was that? Do we go forward or not? What was the deal with that? Like, she couldn't care less that this man is about to breathe his last breath as long as these negotiations go well. So the negotiations do go well. Everything goes forward. Everything's amazing. Kai Winn totally takes credit for all of Bareil's work, doesn't give him a shred of credit. We don't find that out in this episode. We find out in a future episode where Kira brings that up of like, I noticed you didn't give him any credit. And she has the nerve to say, well, he's a servant of the people or something like that. He wouldn't even want credit. He's a servant of the people. That is not the point. That is not the point. She is like the worst boss. She's the one who's going to throw you under the bus if things don't go well. And she's going to take all the praise if things do go well. And that's exactly what happened here. And I think Bashir called her out on it and was like, you're trying to keep him alive just so you can have somebody to throw under the bus if these negotiations don't work. And then she looks at him with this, with her little smile, and she goes, I won't forget what you've said here today, my child. And Bashir is like, neither will I. And I was like, boom, in your face. He's not afraid of you. He's not even Bajoran. What are you going to do to him? You can't do anything to him. And Bashir doesn't care about your feelings. He cares about the fact that you are like heartlessly cheering this man on to drain away what's left of his brain, which he does, and it's super sad. But like I said, it is his choice. So we can't put this all on Winn as far as her making him do it. But the reason why I put this part in her journey is because, again, it speaks to her character, right? Like her second in command person who's doing all the heavy lifting is on his deathbed. And she's like, so anyways, about these negotiations, it's like, can we make sure to close these up before you die? Stay alive just like a little bit longer, maybe another 20, 30 minutes, and then we're good. It's just wild to me. It's like, where's the empathy? And she I don't even think in this episode, I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember in this episode if she even had some kind of like, but for the good of Bajor moment. I don't even remember if she bothered to say that, or if it was just like, these negotiations are important and he's the only one who could do it, so he needs to help. Like, I don't even remember if she tried to put some honorable face on it. Anyways, I'm going to check the chat, and then we're going to go to the next stop on her list. This episode was sad. It was sad. Okay, so Bashir did some medical magic to bring Kai back to life. I love that. This episode is a better use of brain and brain, what's a brain, than TOS. Are you talking about Spock's brain? Because I still haven't seen that yet. However, for those of you like PS2 Chipper who are big TOS fans, I have started watching TOS. I'm more than halfway through the first season, and I'm really enjoying it. I was telling some of the other people that it's kind of like, it's like Twilight Zone in space. And I'm so here for that. I'm here for that. So yeah, I'm having a good time. But Dustin also told me that it gets worse. So don't know how long the good times will last, but I'm having a good time so far. This episode shows just how immoral Winn is. I don't even know, Sela, if it shows how Winn is immoral or if it shows how Winn is heartless. Like, because I don't know if this shows her morality gauge or just her total lack of empathy. Like that she just, if it does not involve her, she just couldn't care less. She could pretend to care, but she doesn't bother to pretend to care. The 6 million gold press Latinum man, that's funny. Backstory is that Louise Fletcher was sick during the filming of this episode. She had a fever or something, and she's such a professional actor, the show must go on. Yeah, couldn't tell that at all. A fan theory is that she orchestrated the accident to begin with. Why would she do that, though? If this is the fan theory, how do the fans explain why she orchestrated this accident? Like to kill Burial again? Because that doesn't jibe with her actions in this episode of desperately wanting him to stay alive until these negotiations are completed successfully. She kept having Bashir wake him because she couldn't do the job. And that was her way to get rid of him. Oh, so you think she did that on purpose too? I was hoping she would be found to be the cause of the attack to begin with. Yeah, I don't think she was trying to rush his demise, in my opinion. I don't think she was sad about his demise, right? Like, no skin off her nose, because she needed him. She needed him to finish the negotiations. As long as he made it that far, she was happy. I don't think she was trying to get rid of him at all, because she needed him. Like you said, she needed him to do her job. So the longer he lived, the better for her. So I don't think she was behind the attack. I don't think she was trying to wake him up constantly to help, speed along his death. I just think she, like, if anything, she would have wanted him to be alive and well, so that way he could either be the scapegoat if it all went disastrously wrong, or he could just keep propping her up and making her look good by making everything go right. It's my opinion. Hello, welcome. It's like when you get surgery and your boss calls you and says, hey, good luck on your recovery. Do you remember that Mitchell account? It's exactly like that, where you're like, you get out of here. Like, why are you even calling my cell phone right now? I will be in the office next month. Check me then. That's really funny. OMG, me too. I'm watching TOS, but I haven't gotten too far yet. I skipped around a little bit, so I'm not going totally in order. But I'll do some live streams about some of the TOS episodes that I'm watching that I'm really enjoying. And I'm kind of bummed that it's going to go downhill. But then I'll watch Enterprise, and maybe it'll be like a little parabola. Go back up. I have seen the Twilight Zone episodes with... Actually, no. I've seen the ones with Kirk. I've seen Perry Mason with Spock. I haven't seen Twilight Zone with Spock, I don't think. Exactly. Winn cares a lot about herself. So true. Okay, PS2 Chipper has gifted 5 memberships to the channel. So if you have not become a channel member, grab those up now before they are gone. I think you have to enable it or something. You got to jump in the chats. If you're watching on your TV, just like jump on your phone and you can jump in the chat. And if you're a member, drop a colon, something colon in the chat. You could do a colon, Borg colon. I love that. Or a colon, Moopsie colon. So we know you're a member. When is the Loki meme here? Yes, very sad. Anyway, totally. So I have not seen TAS, but I have heard only bad things about it. So let me know if you loved it, Sela. Winn was not trying to kill Bareil, but when he got hurt, she didn't hesitate to take advantage of both him and his unfortunate situation. Oh, 100%. 100%. Oh, there you go. Okay, you have to turn accept memberships on in your settings. Okay, thank you, Gavin. Oh, you have not seen every TOS episode. I thought you had. How interesting. I have seen all of Star Trek. I have definitely not seen all of Star Trek. Yes, love that colon. Yes, colon baseball, Borg, love it. The logic lesson with Spock. Yes, you did send me that. Oh, Gavin, you think TAS is great? Okay, DJ Magic says TAS is rough. So we got 2 opposite opinions. Okay, and Win Grace says, if you don't watch all of TAS, at least watch the episode where you get to meet the devil. Why not? Oh, okay, this makes sense. I was 6 when TAS began, and it made me a Trekkie for life. This makes sense. This is the same reason, Sela, why so many people love episode 1 of Star Wars, is because they were like 6 when that came out. And I think Anakin was supposed to be like 6 in that movie or something like that, or maybe he was 9. He's a baby. So that totally makes sense. Like, that was their goal, was to snatch the youngins, and it worked on you. If only a barrel would fall on Kai Winn. That's so funny. Oh, that was clip from TAS. Okay, I didn't know where. I did not know that. I did not know that's where you got that from. I thought it was just a YouTube thing. Okay, now let's talk about the next step on Winn's journey, on Kai Winn's journey, where she is still rising and chose to rise yet further. Season 3, Episode 24, Shakaar. Kai Winn, acting as Bajor's first minister, asks Kira to convince her former resistance leader Shakaar to return some government equipment, but he refuses. When Kai Winn tries to have Shakaar arrested, it triggers a standoff between former resistance fighters and the current Bajoran government. Soldiers on both sides realize that they didn't fight the occupation together just to end up fighting against each other. So instead, they form an alliance and force Kai Winn out of the First Minister's seat to be replaced by Shakaar. This was probably my favorite Kai Winn moment of all of Deep Space Nine, was that scene where they walk in and she's again doing her little smile and she's like, well, you've brought me Shakaar just like I wanted. And they're just like, we didn't arrest him. We're not here for that. We're here to take your job. Get out. Like that just, and the look on her face, I feel like I dream about it sometimes. It was just such a great moment. And I literally stood up and started to applaud while I was watching that episode. I was just like, yes, take that. Because finally, the bad guy doesn't win using all their badness. Like, finally. So in this stage, so we've already had Bareil, who has been gone for quite a while at this point. So apparently she's getting along just fine, because not only is she doing well as the Kai, in her opinion, she also wants to become first minister, because one title is just not enough. She wants to be both the highest religious leader and the highest just like secular political leader at the same time, which is so unnecessary. Like, why don't they have someone else doing this? But because of her influence and because of her sneakiness and probably her mad networking skills, I don't know, she gets in that position. And I think at the point where this episode starts, she's only been first minister, and maybe she's not even first minister. Maybe she's like interim first minister, but it hasn't been, I think that's what it is. I think she's interim first minister. And I think she's only been in this position for like a week or something like that. Not very long. And Shakaar, who was a resistance fighter living on some random planet or moon or whatever, I think some random moon, he had some farm equipment. Him and all of his ex-resistance fighters are living the quiet farming life, some random moon, and they have some farming equipment that they've waited like 6 months or 9 months or some long time to get they put their name on a list. They waited a long time to get it. They've got the equipment. They're doing the farming. And then when Kai Winn becomes first minister, she's like, you know what? We need those pieces of equipment because we want to farm this other spot of Bajor and we need to do it during planting season. And Shakaar's like, no. We've waited all this time. We get to have it for 3 months. You can have it in 3 months or whatever their time limit is. And so Kai Winn hits the roof and is like, Bajor needs that. You better give that to us. Da, 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 da. And Shakaar's like, no. So he sends Kira to be like, you're friends with him. Go convince him. So she goes down there and he's like, no. And she's like, okay, that's fair. And so then Kai Winn sends the whole Bajoran military goes against Shakaar et al. And friends to get back these like three pieces of farming equipment. And it's so unnecessary because like you could have just gotten more from the Federation. You could have done anything else basically. But at this point, it's not even about the farm equipment. It's not about farming on Bajor. It's not about making it in time for planting season. It's not about the needs of the many, which she could have made that argument. And I think she did make that argument where she was like, no, it's so important because, you know, this is just a small handful of people. There's thousands on the planet who need this. She did make that argument for why it's important, but she did not send the entire military against Shakaar for those 6,000 people who needed the farming equipment. She did it because they disobeyed her, because Shakaar did not obey her. And she is the most powerful person in Bajor, darn it. And everyone should obey her and everyone should follow her feet the second she makes any kind of statement. And they did not. And it could have become really bloody and it could have turned into a civil war. And Cisco even warned her of that. Like, this sounds like you're starting a civil war. And Kai Winn was just like, it's important that people obey the government. They need to obey the government. That is the most important thing. So whatever happens, happens. So it's like, this is crazy. Once again, you're so bent on being in charge of things and being in control and having power that you don't care if you destroy the very people you're in charge of. Then who are you going to be in charge of? If there's a whole civil war and everybody dies, who are you in charge of? What's your power for? Like, what is it even for? So anyways, Shakaar ends up saying, you know, I'm going to run for first minister and do this properly. And the military leader that they sent was like, yeah, the entire military is behind Shakaar. I've already talked to everybody. I already got in the group chat. We're all going to vote for him. And Kira's like, yep, Federation, they're probably going to back it too. So go ahead and start packing your bags. And it's just that satisfying moment of Kai Winn being like, what? I was bested. I won't forget this either, my child. You know what I mean? Like, because you know she can hold grudges. You just know it. She's the kind of person. She absolutely can hold grudges. But she never does anything against Shakaar. At least nothing successfully. Nothing like she tried to do against Belial. So I guess she was happy to just be the highest spiritual leader in the entire freaking planet and culture of Bajor, and not also the first minister. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat, and then we'll go to the next stage in her journey, where things take a turn for the even worse. Okay, let's see. For me, it was the Transformers movie. It was the Transformers movie that made you a Trekkie for life, or just that you saw when you were 6? When is a textbook example of why the separation of church and state is so important? I think When's a good example of just like, yeah, not just the separation of church and state, because it's not like she was mixing religious things with non-religious things, but I feel like more the checks and balance system, like her being the absolute ruler of all things is just a bad idea, and anybody being the absolute ruler of all things. And you even notice that she needed Belial to do her job. Like, we need more than one person just to be successful, just to accomplish things. And having one person who's in charge of all without advisors or cabinets or something is just going to be a recipe for disaster. Favorite Kai moment that's not a sentence you hear every day. Yeah, well, it's my favorite Kai moment because of how she gets her comeuppance, not because of how she's so awesome as the Kai. Yeah. Well, if you can't do one job well, you could do 2 jobs equally bad. That's probably true. That is probably true. I think my favorite Kai moment is when she kicks Gul Dukat out of the house. That was also really fun, but that was more satisfying. That moment was satisfying against Dukat. Like, that was like the equivalent of this. I agree with you. The Shakaar moment is when I was just like, take that win. And when she kicked Dukat out because he was blind and was just like, yeah, I think you need to learn some humility. That was like the take that Dukat moment. I think that was like the only moment we really get where it's like, yeah, somebody like got him and he couldn't immediately retaliate, which was like, so sweet. So wonderful. Oh, the movie that captured you as a child. Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's go to the next stage on the next step in her journey. Season 6, Episode 21, The Reckoning. Sisko discovers an ancient Bajoran tablet that unleashes a conflict between the Prophets and the Pa-wraiths meant to take place on Deep Space Nine, and they start a battle that could save or doom Bajor. Halfway through this power struggle, Kai Winn floods the entire station with chronoton particles and forces both entities to leave, preventing the Reckoning from happening. This episode, I don't know, like the first half of it's kind of slow, right? Because it's like the tablet, I need to break the tablet broke. So the first half is a bit slow. And then also I was re-looking at this part where Jake and Kira are just like staring at each other. And I was thinking, what is this moment like for the actors? Because we're seeing all these cool special effects, but they're not, right? They're just literally standing and looking at each other really intensely. And maybe someone in the background is saying, explosion or something like that, because they both do that thing at the same time. Like when the little light beams explode, they both jerk at the same time. Like, so I'm sure someone is in there going like 1, 2, 3, go, or something like that. But I was thinking about the actors and I was like, man, I don't know what they were thinking in their minds, but it looks so good on screen. It looks so legit. Like the look in their eyes, the little blood running down Kira's nose, and how Jake's temple is pulsing and they're just staring at each other and they're collapsing and stuff. They killed it, like, especially knowing there's literally nothing there but air. I don't know what the directors were saying to them to get this performance from them, but man, did they kill it. Okay, that's enough of me gushing about how amazing that scene was and how much I loved it, and I could watch it over and over. We're here to talk about Kai Winn and her nonsense. Okay, so when the tablet broke, there was some prophecy, or maybe the prophets actually just told Sisko that there's a reckoning coming, and here's what it's going to look like. And basically, we need to fight this battle. And it's going to be between the Pa-wraiths and the wormhole aliens, the Prophets. We need to fight this battle to see who's going to win. And whatever happens after this battle, Bajor will never be the same. So before this battle, all this crazy stuff was happening on the planet, like plagues of locusts and floodwaters and all this kind of like end times biblical stuff was going on the planet. And that's why Kai Winn had come to talk to Sisko in the first place. She was like, you're the emissary. Do you know what's up? Like, this is kind of matching with our prophecy. And the prophets are just like, okay, this battle's going to happen here, so you need to let it happen. And also they told him something like, you have to make a sacrifice, or there's going to be great pain for you. They said something very negative to him to where he was like, I wonder what that means. And then when he sees Jake show up and Jake is possessed by the Pa-wraith, he's like, no, take me instead. This is actually a moment I really like, a Sisko moment I really enjoyed, / an Avery Brooks moment I really enjoyed, because I feel like it was more Avery Brooks than Sisko. But he was like, no, take me instead, don't take my son. And Jake was just like, you offer yourself, you're not ready, or whatever he says. And he just like flicks his hand, Sisko goes flying, and Kai Winn is still in the cut, like seeing what's going on. Now, first of all, they had already evacuated the station, so she should have been gone. But she stayed ahead. She stayed with some minions to like pray over the situation, which they could have prayed anywhere. They didn't have to pray on Deep Space Nine. And when the evacuation order went out, they could have been praying on their shuttle all the way back to Bajor. But she stayed behind. Anyways, this battle had to be fought. And if the Pa-wraiths won, then the Pa-wraiths would take over Bajor, which would be a bummer. And if the Prophets won, the Prophets would keep doing their thing, but they would also have to kind of fix everything that went wrong on the planet, which would take a lot of time. Either way, the Reckoning was supposed to be this kind of like blank slate for Bajor. So everything was going to get terrible, and then it was going to get rebuilt, either rebuilt by the Pa-wraiths or rebuilt by the Prophets. So as this battle is going on, Dax runs out, and she's like, Worf has the chronoton particles ready, and you could flood the entire Deep Space Nine with it, and it'll cause these aliens to have to leave because they're like time sensitive. They're sensitive to chronoton particles because they don't exist in space and time. So sure, that makes sense. So he was like, Worf's ready. He's got his finger on the button. He'll push it, and they'll both have to leave. And while they're battling, Sisko's like, no, you have to let them fight. They have to do this. The Prophet said this has to happen. And Jadzia's like, but they're going to kill your son. And he's like, no, they're going to save my son. The Prophets will do the right thing. What is crazy to me about this scene is that Sisko has like 1,000 times more faith than freaking Kai Winn, who's supposed to be the spiritual leader. Like, Sisko has way more faith. Sisko's like, I believe in the prophets. My son will be fine. And Jedzia was like, they're trying to kill your son. He's like, no. They're trying to kill the Pa-wraith inside of my son. But Jake himself is going to be just fine. And he's sitting there watching them like kill each other. And he's got that faith. Kai Winn, on the other hand, sneaks over to Ops and hits the button to flood with the chronoton particles and get the aliens out. When it all stops and they both collapse and, they make sure everybody's okay or whatever, Kai Winn comes back out of the cut and she's like, I had to for Bajor. Girl, if you don't get out of here. She tried to say it was for, and again, if she had meant it, if it really was for Bajor, then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's fair. Cause Bajor was like in a bad spot and maybe we don't want either of these people to win if it's going to cause all this destruction in its wake, right? But that's not why she really did it. She really did it because she was jealous that she wasn't the emissary. And she was jealous that the prophets didn't speak to her. And she was jealous that she just wanted to be in the middle of the thing. And this is how she made herself a part of it, by disrupting the whole thing. And if this is not an outward example of faithlessness on your part, Kai Winn, I don't know what is. But she could stand behind that veil of being like, oh, I did it for Bajor. I had to do it for Bajor. Okay. Who believes that, girl? Nobody believes that. Anyways, okay, I'm going to check the chat, and then we're going to go to the next stop on her journey. By the way, I love seeing all the members in the chat. Okay, let's go. I felt genuinely bad for her when she died. This is what Sela says. I don't think I felt bad for her, but I also don't think I felt as satisfied as I wanted to. Because do you guys, let me know what you think in the chat, in the comments. Do you think Kai Winn really could have survived to the end of this story? Like, do you think that would have been right for her to survive and for Dukat to survive? You let me know. Because especially when Jadzia didn't, I don't know. I don't think I felt bad for her, but I don't think I didn't see it happening exactly that way. I don't know. We can talk about it when we get to that episode. About to watch at the end of tonight's show. I Have Rule is my favorite movie of mine. I mentioned it 3 times in a day. I have to watch it again. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting rule. What made me a Trekkie for life was a TOS clip episode of the unaired pilot seeing Captain Pike in the chair getting to live free in his psychic plane. That is so interesting. The episode Menagerie Part 1 and 2, because I'm watching them in order on Paramount Plus, so I watched The Cage first. So then when I got to Menagerie, I was just like, this is literally The Cage. This is a clip show. I was like, we just saw that whole show. But then when Grace told me that it didn't air that way. So no one had seen The Cage. So now I guess if I put my mind that way, then I would have been more interested about what was going on in Menagerie. But I'm really surprised that it's like, because I was surprised that that's one of the highest ranked episodes when it's a clip show. But if you never saw the show that it's clipping from, I could see making it more interesting. Love this episode, but it makes me want to slap Winn. Yes, chronotons. Oh yeah, let's put a chronotons in the chat because we got some chronotons. Love the Pike pilot. Yeah, I think The Cage was like way better than Menagerie. But Menagerie Part 1, like the first half of Part 1 was good because it was Spock being like all Section 31. I thought that was fun. But then when it started, I was like, wait, is this just The Cage? Like the entire Cage all over? But I didn't know it wasn't aired until years later. Time particles. Actors who work in sci-fi are too often taken for granted because of the perception that they have special effects to lean on. The opposite is the case. Absolutely, yeah. I don't know. It has to be so hard to not have something there to like react to. But they killed it. Seeing Pike walk again with his lady friend, even though we knew it was fake, we were happy for them. Yeah, I was happy for Pike because, man, Pike's been through it. Especially if you're watching Strange New Worlds. Pike's been through it. Kai Winn's gotta pray just to make it today. I love that. Oh, I didn't realize I just said that. They're time sensitive. They're time sensitive. I'm time sensitive. If somebody is really late, it pisses me off. Love the baseball. Oh, thank you so much, Patty. Okay, so Nadia says, no, she and Dukat had to go. Plus, fire was a good way to go. Symbolic of what her soul is going through in Hades forever and ever. No, she was too self-destructive and destructive to all those around her. She was fatally toxic. Yes, love seeing those chronoton particles in the chat. Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure if if I'm not sure if she could have lived, if that would, I'm not sure how fans would have taken it if there was no consequences for her actions, especially when she became BFFs with the Pa Wraiths. Yeah. Not that she said that, but I'm just like, you know, thinking that. I did not see The Cage till I was 18 and it was aired on television. That's wild. I like The Cage. I thought it was really interesting. And then I was like, oh, Pike would have made kind of a cool captain. Do you love Lucy? I love Lucy for giving us Star Trek. I also love Lucy for giving us Star Trek. And I love Lucy. All right, see you later. Chronotons. Yes, I love the Chronotons in the chat. I just needed Winn to have a consequence. If not death, then imprisonment or something. For sure, Winn could not get away with what she's done and just go back to being the Kai. Living in her ivory tower. We have to have some, like, she has killed someone. She has put so many lives in danger over and over and over for her own self-interest. Maybe even her being a beggar on the street, like how she made Dukat be a beggar. I don't know. But she needed something. We needed something satisfying at the end of her story that says her bad deeds did get punished. Speaking of which, let's go to the next step on her journey. Season 7, Episode 19, Strange Bedfellows. Kai Winn discovers she has been getting visions from the Pa Wraiths and not the Prophets. Kira encourages her to step down as Kai because her love of power is what led her down this dark path. She is so incensed by the idea that she should sacrifice her power to please the Prophets that she decides to fully align herself with Dukat and the Pa Wraiths instead. So this is where I feel like she did have a genuine faith in the Prophets. So I had sent an email out to my list about this upcoming episode, and I got a bunch of emails back saying that Kai Winn didn't have like a good bone in her body. Like she never had any, because I came from the place of, I'm sure she started out with good intentions at some point. At some point in her life, she decided to become a Vedic and eventually a Kai for some noble reason, for some pure reason, for some point of faith at some point in her life. And then it got kind of tainted and corrupted, and now she just wants power, is my assumption of her. But I got a lot of emails back saying like, no, she never had anything good inside of her, about her, through her, anything. But this episode is the one spot where it makes me think she did have something, because she was so genuinely devastated when she realized she had been talking to the Pa Wraiths. She was so devastated. She was like, no. Now the Prophets are against me. Now they're going to curse me because of what I've done. Oh no. Like she really felt upset that she was going against the Prophets for about 5 minutes. The second that Kira said, you need to give up your power so you can walk the true path and actually follow the Prophets, then it's kind of like her true colors came out. So whatever faith she had that made her want to follow the Prophets way back in the day is long gone at this point. Now it's very much a sham. It's very much a show. And I feel like this is the moment where she realizes that she's been lying even to herself, because she very quickly turns to the Pa Wraiths. Like she throws away years, decades, maybe her entire life of devotion to the Prophets overnight with the suggestion that she might need to give up her power in order to keep her faith, which is wild and so heartbreaking. And man, do you not belong in that position of being the spiritual leader of all the Bajorans. Like, this is not the role for you, for all the reasons. So it was I was really surprised at how quickly she turned to the Pa Wraiths. I was really happy to see how upset she was when she realized she turned to the Pa Wraiths. I was like, oh, good. She's like, oh no, what have I done? This is terrible. But it was so quick for her to be like, the Prophets want me to give up my power. They've never done anything for me. They've never given me anything. I follow the Pa Wraiths. I was like, what the heck? I was honestly shocked at how quickly she flipped. And all it took was a couple of visions. Well, like 2-3 visions. And she was like, I'm in. That's all I ever wanted from the Prophets. So, you know, on some sense, maybe it's on the Prophets for not giving her a vision or something. But I also feel like that's not what faith is about. It's not about the Prophet saying, when you're so special, you're the most special one, you're our true emissary. That's not what it's about. Like, Kira doesn't need any of that for her faith. She doesn't need to be Kira the magnificent, Kira the wonderful, Kira the emissary. She doesn't need any of that. But for Kai Winn, she needs all of that. Like, that's all she wants is power and praise. So to have that challenged or threatened, it's just the end of the world, right? Okay, I'm going to check the chat, and then we've got 2 more stops on her journey. 1 more stop before we get to the final stop. Oh, I like this one. Your love keeps lifting me higher. I like that. I like that. Does Kai Winn love herself or the prophets more? Yeah, I feel like if it's like, does Kai Winn love herself, or we don't even need the rest of the sentence because it's like her. She loves herself more. Walk with the prophets, my child. Become iconic. Rest in peace, Louise Fletcher. Yeah, so good. Oh man, she just like killed this role. Like she did so good in this role. I don't think I've met a character that I had such a visceral reaction to within 5 minutes of them being on screen. It's wild. She wasn't upset for the prophets. She was upset at the threat to her position. 100%. Yes. Rest in peace. 100% Sharice. I feel like if you're a spiritual leader, then your real purpose is to be of service. Exactly. That's what spiritual leadership is. Spiritual leadership is service. And I don't know if Kai Winn ever said the word service. Like I can't remember her ever saying that, but I feel like if she ever said it, it would be a total lie, right? All I ever do is in service to Bajor. It'd be a total lie, right? Total lie. Yes, so Kai Winn loves the prophets. yeah, maybe she loves the prophets, but she loves herself way more. And I don't think she really loves the paw race. Oh, this is interesting, to be in service to the spirit. I don't think she loves the paw race, but they're offering her power. And so she's in service to the spirits, right? In service to the paw race. And because the paw race are duplicitous AF too, they promise her that, or maybe imply, along with Ducat's nudging, they imply that Kai Winn is meant to be their emissary. So finally, she gets to be as special as she wants to be by being the evil emissary, which of course was a total lie. Dante says, I think that's the excuse Winn was looking for. The prophets never spoke to her, and she needed a reason to abandon the prophets. I think it's really sad that she abandoned them so quickly, but also it makes sense, right? Because she is hungry for power, and this is like a power like she's never had before. This isn't first minister power. This is emissary to the paw race power. This is a whole nother level that no one else has been there before, that no one else can kind of take from her, right? Where she can be the special little snowflake that she's always wanted to be. Okay, now let's look at the next kind of step on her journey. Season 7, Episode 20, The Changing Face of Evil. The Breen launch a devastating attack on Earth, shifting the war in the Dominion's favor. Kai Winn's second-in-command discovers that aaaaaaallll is an imposter and is really Ducat, surgically altered to look Bajoran. At first, Winn is outraged, but when Solbor tries to stop her from learning how to summon the paw wraiths, she stabs him in cold blood. Meanwhile, Damar defects and declares war on the Dominion. I love everything about this episode. I was like so here for it. Every single backstory, the A plot, the B plot, the C plot, I was here for all of it. Seeing the Breen, which didn't look as awesome as they do in Discovery, but still seeing the backstory for where the Breen came from. That was super cool. Anyways, here is where I feel like she really made a point of no return when she decided to follow the paw race in the first place. Like that was really, she walked away from the prophets, closed the orb, and was like, I'm a paw race girl. But it was this episode where you see what that looks like. So she had ordered her second in command, Sabor, to go and get all of these dark books from the vault, from the restricted section. So she's getting all these dark books that teach you how to summon the paw wraiths. These books have not been read or looked at or touched for like 300 years or something like that. And they can only be accessed by the Kai. And the Kai has never wanted to look at them because they're all about summoning freaking paw wraiths. So not only does she get the evil book, but also the evil book is activated, as evil books often are, by blood. So she kills this dude, which is awful. And then she's walking around with a knife kind of in a daze. And maybe Ducat tries to wrestle it from her or something. Somehow they're wrestling and the blood splashes on the page. And then the whole page comes to life. And she's like, aha, now I can finally get the answers I've been seeking of figuring out how to summon the paw race so that I can be their emissary and I can be the most powerful person on Bajor or whatever. So she really had already kind of made her turn to the dark side. But now she's looking up these super dark books, trying to actually summon the paw race, and she murders someone. Not only does she murder someone, which she was shocked about, but as soon as the book starts giving her answers, she's just like, oh yeah, somebody get rid of that. I got to read this next chapter. It's just like the horror of what she's done. It just goes right over her head. Once again, this shows that she is totally lacking in empathy. And I think this goes to whoever's point that was before about how immoral she is. there's a level of immorality for sure here to just murder someone in cold blood because they are going to tell on you. They're not going to let you read the dark books or whatever. So there's a lack of immorality, but there's also this lack of empathy, because how does she not care? Not only did she just kill someone, which is already like, should be the worst thing you could ever imagine yourself doing, but also it's not just anyone. This was her second in command. This was her assistant. This is the guy who's been by her side, presumably since the second she became Kai. So for years and years and years, for like 5-6 years or whatever, she's known this dude and been everywhere with him. And she just, he's laying there bleeding out on her floor, and she's just like, oh, chapter 3, let's see what this has to say. I mean, there's nothing in her mind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I've done is terrible. She's not leaning over him like, no, come back. I'm so sorry. She's not, get a medic, find a hypo spray. I mean, it's really just, she stabs him and then she's like, I had to. Oh, look, the book's activated. I mean, there's just no empathy. And I think it's that, like, this whole, everything about her in this episode is where it starts to be like, okay, we can't just have her go to prison. Like we need some serious consequences for these serious actions, because she's shown that she is dangerous. She is murderous. She has way too much power than anyone needs, but especially her, because she's not going to use it for good things. And she doesn't care. She doesn't care who she hurts. She has no empathy. She has no moral compass. So Dukat is like, don't worry, we'll get rid of the body. I do this all the time. You remember when I performed all those atrocities against your people? Yeah, I've got all the maps memorized to all the mass graves that I personally have had dug. You know what I mean? He's just like, dead body, schmed body. I deal with this every Tuesday. And at first, Kai Winn is like, no, that's terrible. And then once the book gets activated, she's like, okay, what were you saying about getting rid of the body? Because that'd be really great if you could do that. And then we see her talking to the other, I don't know, attendants, vedics, ? The other people. And she's just like, yes, please tell me whatever news you can find. It's so unlike Sabor to just run off like this. Please tell me how your investigation goes, and if you could find any traces of him. Like she cares. It's just, it's like, just thinking about it right now makes me angry all over again. Like that you participated in all of this. You were so quick to let Dukat hide his body. You were complicitous in the whole, I don't know where he's gone, he must have run away thing. Like, like it kills me. It kills me. Anyways, okay, I'm going to check the chat, and then we're going to talk about the last step on Kai Winn's journey. Yes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. At least that's for darn sure with Kai Winn. It was not the first time she murdered. It was the first time she got blood on her hands. Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. That is a really interesting way to put it. Yeah, Winn does these horrible things, and then she's like, oh no, what have I done? Have I done something horrible? And then she just is like, okay, back to what I was doing. Yes, exactly. And then Dukat gives her a nudge, and she's like, I'm good. I'm super good. Like, it's fine. It'll all work out. Yep, totally agree. I don't think it was killing him that made her stumble for a minute. It was the first time she did it directly and couldn't hide behind plausible deniability. That's interesting. So you're kind of more on what PS2 Chipper just said, of that it's the first time that she got blood on her hands, where she wasn't able to be like, well, the military is out there fighting, or I sent some minions to do it, or I just flooded the place with chronoton particles. I didn't know what was going to happen. It's the first time where she can say, this action caused this result, and it was me. And look at her response. She's shocked for all of 3 minutes, not even, probably like 90 seconds. And then she's all into the book, and she's like, dispose of that, will you? And she's just totally over it, which is wild. Okay, now let's go to the last step on her journey. Season 7, episodes 25 and 26, What You Leave Behind. The Federation, Klingons, and Cardassian rebels launch a final assault against the Dominion. This leads to Cardassia's utter devastation and the eventual surrender of the Dominion. Odo decides to finally return to the Great Link and brings the cure for the changeling disease with him. Also, Kai Winn tries to kill Dukat, but the Pa-wraiths bring him back to life, and he kills her instead. Just then, Sisko arrives in time to banish Dukat to the fire caves forever, before ultimately joining the Prophets for some reason. So I also love this episode and everything about it. It was so good at tying up loose ends. Like, talk about closure. This was it. This was it. We closed all the little loops. I think so. Okay, here we are. We're at the caves. So it's Dukat looking Bajoran. We've got Bajor and Dukat, Anjal. and we've got Kai Winn, and she's got the sacred book, and she's reading it out, and she's doing all her chanting all over the caves and whatever, and all the fires burst up, and she's like, ah, ha ha ha, and you just see like this joy and lightness of spirit. I don't know why she was so happy. I guess because she thought she was about to be made the emissary. So she's like, finally, she takes up all of her Kai accoutrement and like throws it in the fire, and she's just like, aha, take the hat, take the robe, I'm free. And Ducat's laughing with her, and they're just spinning around. The hills are alive with the sound of music. And she's so excited. So during this whole scene, because I don't trust either of these mofos, I was waiting for one of them to push the other one off the cliff. Like, I was literally just waiting. I was like, is it going to be Winn? Is she going to push Ducat? Is it going to be Ducat? Is he going to push Winn? But one of them was going to push the other one. I knew it was going to happen because you can't trust either of them. So I was really like watching like which one's going to do it, because this is how far that they have sunk. This is how far Kai Winn has fallen in my estimation, that I feel like her behavior is on par with things that Ducat would do. Like, both of them would stab you in the back. We just saw Kai Winn stab someone in the back. So you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. Interestingly, that didn't happen. But I was waiting the whole time. I was like, okay, which one's going to push the other one? One of them's going to get too close, and it's just going to be like a little nudge, and then they're going to be like, haha, sucka. But Ducat's like, what's next? What's next in the book? And she's like, next, they need a sacrifice. And she had tricked him into drinking some poison or whatever, and then he died. And so she was like, ha ha ha, like, now make me the emissary. I have finally done your bidding and finished all the things I have to finish in this book. So then the Pa race reanimate Ducat. They bring him back to life, and they bring him back as a Cardassian, which was such a nice touch for the season finale, because we have to see Ducat die in his natural form. We can't see Bajor and Ducat die. So he comes back. He's alive. He snatches the book like with telekinesis, because now he has those powers. And Kai Winn is so shocked. And he's like, Winn, did you really think you were going to be the emissary? And I just thought that was almost as bad as her catching fire from her perspective. Like, that was like the worst thing that she could hear, right? She's gone through everything. She's sacrificed everything. She's turned her back on everything. She's done all of these awful, terrible things. And at the end of the day, she still didn't get what she wanted. She was promised power and authority and being a special snowflake and being the Pa race emissary. And Ducat just laughs in her face. Did you really think you were going to be the emissary? Yeah, right. I was going to be the emissary all along. Don't you remember my war crimes? I was made to be the emissary. I was born for this role. So then Kai Winn is like, well, I'm going to destroy the book. That'll teach you. Because Sisko is like, destroy the book and that'll take his power away or something. But apparently that actually didn't work. So whatever. She caught fire. She died. And it was kind of quick, right? She just kind of was like swirled by fire. And I guess the fire is supposed to be the Pa wraiths? ? Each flame is a Pa wraith? I'm not really sure about that, but I think that's what they were going for. Each flame is a Pa wraith. And then the flames that engulfed her were like Pa wraiths engulfing her. And later on, the prophets say that Ducat became a Pa wraith. So he's still like a flame just floating with them. But I guess Kai Winn did not become a Pa wraith because she's not brutal enough to be one of them. So I guess she just died. But I feel like, and so Sela had said earlier that she was really sad about how she died, or sad that she died, or sad about how she died. I feel like after all the things she did, especially just in the last episode, she needed some kind of justice brought against her. Like, and it had to be, and if it's poetic, so much the better. And I feel like the Pa wraiths being the end of her is a really poetic end, because she was kind of always destined for that fire cave. Do you know what I mean? Like that, this was always where she was going to end up, because she was never going to get what she really wanted to get from the prophets. And she was never going to be satisfied to be just the Kai, just the most powerful person in Bajor. She wanted to be the most powerful person ever, you know? So I think if there's anything I'm sad about with Kai Winn, had to think about it for a second. What am I sad about for Kai Winn? Because mostly I'm just like, oh, okay. The one thing I'm sad about for Kai Winn is how Aunt Angel tricked her and seduced her and lied to her and then turned out to be Ducat. That to me, I mean, it just made my skin crawl. It just was like, not only did he trick her and seduce her and all of that, but then he kept throwing it in her face. Like, once after she killed her Sabor, and then they were like partners or whatever, partners in crime. He kept being like, didn't you want me in your bed? Didn't you like me in your bed? Maybe I could just stay in your bed. Like he just kept like rubbing it in that, remember how we slept together when you thought I was Bajor and you didn't know I was really Dukat? It's just like that slimy little, ugh. So if I feel bad about anything for her, I feel bad about that because she really did like Angel, and it's just disgusting and awful how Dukat took advantage of her. But other than that, I don't really feel bad about anything else. Like, I don't feel bad that the paw wraiths swallowed her up in the end. I feel like that was appropriate. I think it was a satisfying ending. I think it was a satisfying ending for Dukat. I don't think it was a very satisfying ending for Cisco. I still don't understand why he had to go with the prophets. He was all like, "There's so much for me to learn, and I need to learn it." And I was just kind of like, "Not with the baby on the way, sir. No, you do not. The prophets exist out of time and space. Tell them to check you back in like 27 years. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Why not? Or teach you everything they need to teach you in the next 30 seconds, and you come back at the time that you left." But whatever. That's a conversation for a different live stream. So let me know your favorite Kai Winn moments in the chat or in the comments if I haven't touched on them yet. I want to say I'm going to check the chats, and then we will close up for tonight or for today. And I will, I was going to say I'll let you know what our next conversation is going to be, but I don't know what it's going to be yet. So I can't let you know. Okay, let me check the chat. Yeah, totally. So it's a lot easier to murder when all you have to do is write a name in a book, or all you have to do is give an order without, like when she ordered the government to go capture Shakaar and friends, she knew she was ordering violence, like capture might look like kill and capture, but she was just like, just do it. They didn't listen to me, just do it. You know, so it's a lot easier when you're just ordering people and you're not even letting your mind walk through what that order looks like, right? Kai and Dukat should have gotten their own spin-off show. But if they got a spin-off show, Gavin, then they would have to live past the season finale. And like, I don't want that. I don't want them to still be out there up to their old tricks. But maybe if there was a spin-off of like the life between the two of them as like Bajorans or something, like if there was some kind of spin-off show between those points, that would be interesting. Or awful. I don't really know. It was like she was 10 pounds lighter, literally. Yes, as she was throwing off all of the bindings of being the Kai. Exactly, yes. Even after literally turning to evil, she still doesn't get the chance to become the chosen one. Comeuppance. Yes. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, Winn as the Kai. Yeah, I think last week when I was showing this clip, I think it was Nadia who was just like, "Bye, Winn, bye, bye." She was just like, "I don't even care that the fires are scooping you up. That's what you deserve." I hated the end of Cisco's arc, but yes, it's a different chat. Yeah, it's a totally different chat. In fact, I don't even know what else to say about that chat other than I don't get it and I don't think it's necessary, and it's dumb, and I don't understand why I don't even understand why they ended it that way. Like, I don't understand why. I also don't understand why his mom had to be a prophet. But okay. Avery actually made them add that scene about him coming back because he refused to make it look like he would abandon his kid. And really his kids, because his wife was pregnant with her first baby. And he's just like, well, there's so much for me to learn. There's so much for you to learn here. Once again, the prophets exist out of space and time, and they seem pretty committed to not letting you die. So they could even show up on your deathbed and teach you all the things you need to learn about prophet stuff. I don't know. Just my thoughts. Winn's best moment was her face-off with Keiko. Oh, in the Hands of the Prophets. You know what I was thinking when you said that? I was thinking of the episode with Evil Keiko, with Keiko as a paw wraith. And I was like, was Winn in that episode? That episode was really good. I like that one a lot. Okay, thank you so much for joining me live. Thank you so much for joining me on the replay. If you're a member, go ahead and drop a barrel colon in the chat or something like that. And I will see you next time. Bye.